extra warm and toasty midsummers welcome to our listeners, new and old. Welcome, welcome, welcome to your 9th, 10th, or 11th favorite reality TV podcast. My name is Michelle here in Los Angeles. And with me today is my co-host, also in Los Angeles, not more than 3 feet away from me. It's Baby J.
Hey everyone, it's me, Jack. We're having a good Thursday. Yes, it is Thursday. Thirsty Thursday with
And who's
us.
that beautiful lady right next to you?
With us on this Thirsty Thursday is my beautiful wife, Lady Diana.
Why, thank you, Michelle and Jack, for having me on your show today. I'm really excited. And in preparation, I have cleaned every room but the bathroom.
Thank you, Diana. We can always count on you to keep the place presentable. I really appreciate the addition of the driftwood fish sculpture and the seagull on my nightstand. Thank you so much.
Don't forget the hands making a heart together.
Well, that's for the dining room. That's for formal occasions only. Whether you're new to us or returning, we want to welcome you again to this very broad church of ours. Whoever you are, however you identify, we support and love and welcome you with open arms, particularly during these trying times here in the US of A. We'll say no more about that. We will get into the episode in just a moment. If you would like to hear all of our content, our many episodes, shows that we cover ad-free for just $5 a month, you can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/BladyDay. Blady is spelled Blighty. You can also search for Blady Day Fiance because I'm frankly not sure what the exact address is. I should probably look that up. For $10 a month, you get to see our beautiful faces on video. Also, when we hit 100 Patreon subscribers, we will be doing one recap a week completely naked. I will not be showing my nipples. No judgments, just my own personal insecurities. And finally, for $15 a week, you get to choose the bonus episode that everyone else gets. We're doing a combined bonus episode this week because we're a bit late on delivery for several reasons. We do apologize for the inconvenience, but you are getting a movie recap of the 1992 romantic comedy ice skating classic, The Cutting Edge, as well as a season review of season 8 of The Real Housewives of New York. Okay, starring me, Ramona Singer, and sometimes my sister/daughter/best friend, Avery. Okay, so you'll get all of that. It's the season where Luann has a whirlwind romance with Tom. It's pre-wedding. It's pre-Tinsley. We are excitedly moving on to season 9. But we work at the behest of our Prince Louis tier subscribers. So, try it out for a week, see how you like it. I think that's about it. So now we can get into the episodes.
Ooh, this is getting, we're at that point in the season now where truths are being unearthed. True feelings are coming out. And I'm my favorite person on this episode is Sprite, which I'm excited to get into that today.
Sprite was an early favorite for me and has remained at the top of the pyramid for those of you who get the Dance Moms reference. Now, to those of you who are brand new, you may wonder what qualifies this woman to be talking about the United Kingdom. I have lived in London for over 15 years. I am married to a Brit, and I am usually there, but I'm spending some time with friends in Los Angeles. I felt it was time for me to return to the motherland here and witness the fall of democracy as we know it. How could I possibly miss that? So, yep, I am doing that. Also, Jack, tell them a little bit about your experience.
My experience that I've been called arrogant for sharing before?
Yes.
All right, I will share it. I have a long background in reality TV, radio, Howard Stern show, America's Got Talent, The Voice, etc., etc., and I'm qualified to talk about this show because I was in international sales for a long time and spent a lot of time traveling in Europe and the Caribbean. So those are my qualifications.
Yes. And I have little sparrows who report back to me from various productions. I went to film school and worked in TV and film very briefly. But I know how the sausage is made, as it were. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about what I think is the big headline, the big storyline in this, which is Charlotte's wedding, question mark. Thoughts, Diana?
First of all, yes, Sprite is obviously a fan favorite, but I really think the MVP of this episode is Charlotte's mom for trolling her and roasting her the entire time she was in the Dominican Republic. This was so much fun. Possibly because Jack and I spent a lot of time in the Dominican Republic over the years when he was an international man of business, as he shared. And so we spent a lot of time even going to weddings in the Dominican Republic of people who actually are from the island. And one thing I can tell you is nobody is ever on time. There is something called island time, and it is real.
It's very real and a major faux pas here. 15 minutes late in the DR is often a little too early. And that's not shade, that's just how things operate there. And let's just say imposing British time standards on people in the Caribbean is not going to work well for anybody.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but British time standards are also not German time standards or Swiss time standards.
I was just going to ask you, where are they coming from then with this like ridiculous timeline?
I think weddings are interesting. I was an hour and a half late to my wedding, as I was telling these two before we started recording. It's the bride's prerogative to be late, but the polite amount of time to keep people waiting is about 20 minutes. You don't want to go over that. We'll get to that in a second. I don't want to gloss over the night before the wedding where Johan starts to panic.
Yeah, there's like a full-on panic attack going on there.
So something's happening there. Jack, what are we thinking?
Okay, the reality is setting in. I don't think Johan wants to leave the DR. I don't think Johan wants to get married to anybody, let alone Charlotte. And I just think the panic's really setting in. As somebody who suffers from some panic attacks here and there, I do have to say, I mean, Diana just started it there, but he has like a full body panic attack beginning, and we're watching it. Made me pretty uncomfortable. I don't know if you noticed this, but she was trying to calm him down by like stroking his leg, and he looked like he was going to like rip his leg off.
Yeah, he did not want to be touched in that moment. Diana, was Jack on time to your wedding?
The joke in Jack's family is all about how he was premature, and so it was the only time in his life he was ever early for anything. And he loves that joke so much. But we were all very worried and joking, but very worried he would not make it to the wedding on time. So his best friend and best man, who is an amazing guy and who is very punctual.
Say his name. He's listening.
Oh, we love you, Sasha. Thanks for listening. What a good support. He was there for me by making sure to stay with Jack overnight the night before the wedding and get him there and usher him in on time. So thank you, Sasha. Because of that, the wedding did occur, and we are still married today, about to celebrate our 11th anniversary on Sunday.
And ironically, we did celebrate our honeymoon in the Dominican Republic.
Ooh, very nice. So yeah, I was a little bit I was a little bit worried at this point. I also love that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Charlotte's mom, whose name I never retain because I that's just not one of my strengths. Uh, she says, I think she's absolutely crazy because I wouldn't do it, and I've married 3 times.
And would you take that stupid hat off? It's annoying me.
Yeah. Please take that hat off. I can't take you serious. The number of times that I've had to say that in my life. I mean, come on.
Look, I like Charlotte. I really do. I actually, I have no hard feelings with her. I like her a lot. What is she, 35? Seems like a really good person, has a job, takes care of things. But she's marrying a child.
Yes.
From an island.
Yep.
Who's never been anywhere before other than his parents and family. I mean, this is a child. He is not ready for this, and she does not seem to understand that in the least bit.
No, and she's not even mildly concerned with the fact that he was about to jump off that balcony, y'all.
Oh my God, 100%. That's what I got concerned about.
You could tell the producer was like, hang on.
All right,
just
buddy.
A second.
And then Johan turns around. He does a physical 180. And he turns around and he's clutching the screen where I felt for a second like, oh my God, he's stopping himself from leaping.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough to watch because we don't get a lot of Johan's perspective or, thoughts on anything. So we're just watching this and he just literally looks like a young kid who's getting in over his head and he doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah. The next thing I want to talk about, because look, waiting is an exhausting activity to begin with. I don't need to talk about what it's like to wait for things. I don't know what they were expecting from a municipal building. What I will say is that in England, there are, like, when I had my civil ceremony, we got married at a town hall, and they're often set up so that you can have a nice wedding, even if it's a very small wedding or a bigger one. There's different, even for people who are eloping or have to do the same day thing. You have a tiny room with a desk in it, and they put flowers in and take your picture. And so that part I actually kind of understand, but I was surprised that they didn't do any research whatsoever. Her mother, perhaps tastelessly and insensitively, says that this looks like a dole office, a welfare office, in other words.
I was wondering when we were watching this if there was some sort of miscommunication or things left unsaid, because generally people do not put on the full wedding regalia to go to a civil service. So was there something where Charlotte and family thought this was going to be like a beautiful wedding venue and it wasn't just the courthouse?
I mean, she does say at the beginning of the episode that Johan, planned everything and she left it all to him.
Right. Not smart, because I promise you, even if that first of all, he never made the appointment. I think that's one thing that probably happened, and he was too ashamed to have to deal with the fallout of that. So there was definitely no appointment, and even if there was, he was never going to show up to it. Like I said, the expectations of a municipal building or a place like, I mean, I wore full wedding regalia we both did, to my civil ceremony, and it's different. People do different things, and
but I'm just interrupting to ask you. I know from you telling me that you two dressed up, but you knew what the building you were going to was.
Yes. Yes. We had seen it before. Our photographer had photographed it before and knew the layout and was comfortable and took beautiful photos. So that was important to me. I think that if you if I had any advice about getting married, which to date no one has asked me for, I would say put all of your money into the food and the photographer, and really, I promise you, the rest doesn't matter.
Yeah, I completely agree. 100%. Do we have any opinions we'd like to share about her wedding dress choice for this occasion?
Ooh, now look, I famously don't like a blinding white gown on anyone. I think that you can pull it off if you have dark hair and blue eyes and pale skin, or if you're like very, very blonde and tan, or if you are a woman of color. Even then, depending on your shade, you probably don't want to go white, white, white. I always think anything whiter than ivory is too much. And I personally prefer a champagne even to an ivory.
Yeah, it's very stark on the eye and it ends up actually looking a lot cheaper.
Yes, that too. I also felt that this didn't fit her body in the right way. The fact that it came in tight on her thighs didn't do her any favors. I understand she wanted a mermaid silhouette, but having it just break off and then go into that kind of tulle fabric, I hated it. I hated it. I hated the sleeves. I hated the shape of it. Yeah. I I wouldn't have gone for that. I would have gone for, if she felt like she needed to cover her shoulders, I would have gone for like a short bolero situation, or even just a shrug where like it's just sleeves that you take on and off. This didn't need a long sleeve.
Which also would have helped with the extreme heat. I think you should always think about the dress you're wearing for the location you're in. It's like always strange to me when you see people have a beach wedding and they're in this full gown instead of something like beachy and ethereal. And I feel like you really have to think about your time of year and your location in your dress shopping.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I say this as someone who wore a giant fuck off ball gown in May when it was very warm to a pub ceremony. I was dressed for the church. I got married under a chuppah in a restaurant.
All nations welcome at your wedding, Michelle.
Yes, of course. So yeah, it ends on a pretty sad note. It looks like, I don't know. I can't imagine how they would turn this around to not be something horrible.
There's nothing, because we already, I mean, spoiler alert, and we don't know quite how they get to this point, but we do see next time on.
Yeah, but usually with something like that, they do a last minute gazump or a switcheroo where, they're leading you in one direction and then they surprise you at the last minute.
You just made me wonder if Johan will not be on the show again.
Yeah, I have a feeling he has taken off with no intention of ever coming back, and they're just throwing a possibly mentally unhealthy young man under the bus at a time of great,
to be
fair,
stress. If that was his last appearance, his last word on the show to camera was "stop." So
yeah, no, that's okay. That's fair. Anything else on these two before we head over to Sprite and John?
I just want to hammer them one more time on not understanding anything about his culture. There's a thing with them waiting for a cab to get to the ceremony, and he ends up, the cabs, they're freaking out when the cab is approximately 90 seconds late, and then it turns into he's sending his uncle, which is very normal over there. And, that led to really lovely comments like, I don't understand how this is his uncle. He's so young. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing is a lot of yikes for sure. And I don't see it ending well, but I'm curious to see exactly how it's going to go down.
And we will be here for all of it. Now over to Aylesbury, Sprite and John. there. Now, I just have to contrast this, and we'll talk about the potatoes of it all, but we get more information when John goes to meet his hot sister, Lisa, about what these conversations are, because I think the portrayal is very different across these two scenes of what's going on. So John says the silence is deafening. He says he can never make conversation because Sprite never asks John questions about himself. Sprite says quite fairly, I think, every conversation feels like the start of a fight. And then comes in with one of the greatest burns in the history of this genre. Jack?
You spread negativity, energy, maybe because your life is not good. Oof.
Oof.
If that doesn't sound like a man in love, I've never been in love myself.
This was in, now we learn later, because I don't think we need to go into this as a whole separate portion, really, that actually these two talk for more than 4 hours a day. And it's more that he's complaining that they run out of things to say to each other after an hour and a half.
What do they? So I was a little confused about that because we do see them on the phone, but what happens for the other 3 hours, 2.5 hours? Are they staring at each other?
No, that's when the fighting begins because there's nothing to talk about. And so then John says, you don't have anything to talk about. And Sprite says something witty and rude. And John gets upset and they just argue. And that doesn't count as talking, Jack.
Yeah, fair. Michelle?
Well, you're the only person in recent memory that I've been on the phone with for more than 2 hours.
Same.
I think. And that was just the first time we talked.
Yes.
So it would be unfair of me to say, oh, who talks on the phone for 4 hours? Because of course you can talk to someone that you can talk to on the phone for 4 hours. But if you're not a phone person, and I am by necessity because I've got family all over and I've got to keep in touch somehow. So I don't, I will bring something. But for these two, yeah, every day, especially when they're not doing anything, I will say, I think probably at least one of those hours is John jerking off and being like, tell me you think I'm attractive. Tell me you want to be my special little bunny boy forever and ever.
Tell me you think this is the most beautiful penis you've ever seen,
yes.
Sprite.
Yeah, exactly.
But where does that go? And that definitely is going on. But when we were speaking, if on the phone, if we ran out of stuff to talk about at 90 minutes, we probably would have said, all right, great. See you later.
We also weren't talking every single day.
4 hours a day feels like this is like another part-time job for both of them.
Yeah. Well, I don't think John has a job at the moment. So,
I mean, you can sit on the phone with somebody and watch TV and talk about the show and go in and out of conversation because you're both participating in some other activity. But there's no need to talk. It feels like in all of this, John is just trying to hold on so tightly to Sprite and make sure he has nothing outside of his life except for John, because sadly it seems John really has not much in his life outside of Sprite.
It reminds me of what Angela did to Michael in terms of well, you can't have a job because that's taking time away from me, and you can't have friends because that's taking time away from me, and you can't spend time with your family because that's taking time away from me.
And why aren't you happy?
Right, exactly.
Super controlling, really controlling in a passive sort of way, because John is very passive.
He does not, for all this talk about he wants to be communicated with. No, he doesn't. Okay. Because he doesn't know how to ask for anything. As a former coworker of mine once famously said, That's not no way to ask nobody for nothing. And that's how I feel every time I hear John talk. That's not no way to ask nobody for nothing, John. Like you're coming in straight with the guilt trip and I mean, at least he has that like flash of insight that, oh yeah, maybe I do start fights so that I can talk to him longer.
Yeah, but that was almost like an afterthought. It was almost like, you know, I haven't really thought about it before, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I start fights so we have something to talk about, because we do find out Sprite literally doesn't ask John any questions ever about anything.
Well, is that accurate or is that just how he feels? Because I don't think John's a reliable narrator.
Well, Sprite, when John did say anything to him, Sprite did sort of say, yeah, I don't ask you questions. Like, I don't have any questions. But I think that's ostensibly because they talked yesterday for 4 hours. What 4 hour conversation is there, unless they have the time and they're, using that time wisely together? It feels really, really forced. And it feels like John's just trying to grip on tight because he's afraid Sprite's going to fly away from him.
It feels like a classic anxious and avoidant attachment style
yes.
again.
Mm-hmm.
We see this quite often, don't we, Michelle?
Under this very roof, even.
We do have an avoidant in here and an anxious attacher in here, and you just have to figure out who's who.
So Sprite, before we get to the airport and everything, where do people normally put their potatoes? Now, look, potatoes are a big part of the British diet, unless you don't like them for whatever reason or can't eat them. I have kept them in various places in my kitchens over the years. I have kept them in drawers before. I don't tend to keep them in cupboards, but I do keep them out of direct sunlight so that they don't turn green, because then you can't eat them. Where do you put your potatoes?
In a large bowl in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, usually like a basket of some kind.
Come at us, bladydayfiance@gmail.com, at bladayday on Instagram. Facebook DMs always open. I'm Michelle Snark. You can find us in our Facebook group, Blady Day Bays. Let us know where you keep your potatoes. I'm curious.
Before we go to the airport, I just wanted to talk about John's cleanliness and cleaning ability. He bought some word art put into sculpture form. We have fish, which I actually like the fish in the bathroom.
I like the fish too.
We had the cheesy heart hands on the table.
That.
And we had a bird, which was fine, I guess. It didn't really make much of an impact. Sprite hates all of it, and that's not even what I want to talk about, though. I want to talk about that when the camera's following John going around to see what he's cleaning and everything, John very intentionally doesn't clean the bathroom, knowing that Sprite will take off his shoe later in the episode to test the dust on the floor with his bare foot. So I'm really confused as to why John chose the bathroom of all places to not clean.
That's a choice, and it's not one that I would recommend. I would say the two places that you really need to clean when you have company over are your kitchen and your bathroom. That's your ones and your twos. Everything else, stuff it all into a closet out of sight.
Michelle, can we play one of your favorite games?
Yes.
Called What Does John's Home Smell Like? Hit it.
Okay. There's definitely... So I have a feeling that he burns toast a lot. I know that he's a chef, but he burns a lot of toast. So it smells like burnt toast, like people, to the point where people walk into the house and go, "Oh, am I having a stroke?" Because I just smell burnt toast. I think I think probably there's a butter kind of smell there, cooking oil, oniony kind of stuff because he never cleans his kitchen. I think when we go upstairs, we start to get some different
Talking about the smells that waft up.
the smells that waft from above. Maybe I would say the bedroom smells like so. I've had male roommates in my time, and there's a certain bouquet that comes with a sexually active male, where like you just smell balls and ass, like this kind of, and it's almost sticky, like there's almost this moisture in the air.
Oh God!
But it's like a tart ass smell.
Oh, you're talking about
like it's not like an open sewer,
like male humidity.
Yes.
A very unpleasant musk. Oh God.
Yes, but then I promise you he gets these hideous air fresheners that smell like tropical fruit.
Oh, he's a tropical fruit guy,
Yeah,
you think?
definitely. Definitely.
Is he the kind of person that, the air fresheners you put in cars where you're just supposed to let a little out of it at a time? Is he the kind of guy that just like takes the whole thing?
Yep, and it's always pineapple or coconut. And it's just, and sometimes it's just like tropical fruit medley, and you're like, great, now this bathroom smells like tropical fruit medley and shit and damp and mold. I don't like it.
Now, I have no evidence of this because we don't see one, but I feel very confident in saying this home smells like kitty litter.
I think we would have seen the cat.
Oh, no, I didn't say there's a cat. I just said it definitely smells like kitty litter.
Okay, let's not get mean.
I wasn't getting mean. We're having fun with John.
It's the only pussy scent you're going to get in there. So, I mean, come on.
That's true. That reminds me of a wonderful anecdote that I've heard about Paul Lynde. And for those of you who are old enough to know who Paul Lynde was, you may remember him fondly from reruns of Hollywood Squares. He was also the voice of Templeton the Rat in Charlotte's Web. He was just a sadly very troubled but extremely funny and razor sharp comedian in the 60s and 70s, I guess, were his heyday. And he was said to have said to someone backstage, "It smells like pussy in here, or so I'm told." So yeah, I don't think it smells like pussy in there. I think that's probably not in the bouquet.
Oh, I'm going to guess it's not. I'm going to guarantee it's not. But we're moving on to a very exciting part of the story, which is Sprite returning from Thailand and landing in England.
Yes, John has had a haircut and a shave. Good for him. The coat looks like a bathrobe.
100%. I really thought it was a bathrobe. Like, I thought it was a joke.
It reminded me of on The American Office when I believe it was some sort of Secret Santa episode or something, but Creed is supposed to get Jim a gift, and Jim rightly assumes that Creed totally forgot and grabbed an old shirt and threw it into a plastic bag. That is what this coat looks like because it is distinctly not Sprite-sized.
Yes, the coat that he brought is maybe an old one of his. But this is kind of a really, we do get something from Sprite that we don't typically hear, which is, even though we're fighting a lot, I really love John. I don't know that he's said that before.
If he has, it's been kind of couched in other speech, and I just don't have a great, and I love Sprite. I said he's my favorite character on the show this season, cast member, but I don't have a great read as to what his actual feelings towards John are.
Diana, what Enneagram number do you think Sprite is?
God, Sprite is really hard to read. He's got a real strong layer of sarcasm. He is very kind of set in who he is, and really isn't going to take any guff from anyone. Not super dependent, very independent. I'm going to guess. I'm feeling like he's somewhere maybe in the 8 arena. Yeah, I'm going to go with 8. He could be, no, I was going to say 9, like maybe because of the sarcasm, but honestly, he's not go along to get along. He will say what he wants. He is super dramatic though, and we know our lovely 4s tend to be a little dramatic.
But like I always say about being an Enneagram 4, Robine Brown is an Enneagram 4, and so is McKelty, and
So am I.
so is Jack, yes, and Jake Anthony, friend of the show. So being a 4 is great, but there's dark-sided 4s.
I didn't know there could be more than one 4 in a room at a time.
Well, Jack and I fight over who gets to be the 4. Anything else on these two before we move on?
Just that we're about to find out John is planning to propose, and it almost sounded like Sprite was preparing to break off the relationship. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go down.
And one last thing on that, I agree, Diana. We're going to see how that goes down. Just finishing up with them. Sprite's decision to mock the word art sculptures that John purchased, and saying repeatedly, "You like to spend your money on stupid fucking things," and then saying, like, "I'm going to throw all this shit in the garbage as soon as you're not here." Is that him, like, sort of giving John the business, or is that? Do you think, like, is that blocking or not blocking? Is that covering some of the hostility that Sprite might be feeling beneath the surface?
I think he just calls it as he sees it. I really do. I think he's a little bitch, and I'm here for it. And I'd love to see more of him, to be frank.
I love you, Sprite.
Love you, Sprite. Please come on the show. Over to Sam and Allie. Not a lot to say here. We get a brief fake out over passing the English exam. Sam has been home for 3 weeks now, and she seems to be verging into, like, I'm reminded of what it was like over COVID during lockdowns, because there's sort of like an evolution happening where I remember, personally at the beginning of lockdown, I would like put on lashes for Zoom meetings, and I would make sure, like, okay, at the very least, I'm going to like dress to go to work.
At least from the waist up, right?
Yep. And then it was at least from the waist up. And then it was, I will put a little bit of tinted moisturizer on, and maybe I'll wash my hair today, but I probably won't. And then we start moving into what I call slug mode.
I spent COVID teaching online and wearing giant sweatshirts and beanies with my students. So, yeah, I've definitely felt this slug mode, and I really loved it, except for maybe the connector part of it all.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anyone slug this hard.
I mean, two slugs turning into
co-slugging.
One slug. It's sort of like two heads and one slug body.
Jack, I really feel like we kind of missed an opportunity with the pandemic to be able to double slug. Like, we really could have had this going for us. It would have been amazing.
Any double slugging going on over in England when you were dealing with the quarantine?
Oh, I mean, we did a lot of hugs and snugs. There were a lot of cuddles and things like that, and
blankets, of course.
Yeah. But I don't think for lots of reasons, my husband and I, we couldn't do that, mostly because, like, one or both of us have to go to the bathroom reliably every 10 minutes. So that just wouldn't have worked.
And watching the mother and daughter get up from the couch in their double slug hug outfit, it was painful. It was like like a potato sack race type of a vibe.
Yeah, and I have to say they were watching fuck, why can't I remember?
Oh, the naked.
The show you told us about in England, Naked something.
Yeah.
People,
Naked Attraction.
Yeah,
yeah. So for those of you who don't, people are very curious about this show because it would just never happen in America, and I get that. It watch one episode. Use your imagination how you might do that. But it's not the kind of thing you can watch. Like, I wouldn't watch it every week again and again over and over, because after a while everything starts to look the same. But it's basically a show where it's like Mystery Date or whatever, where there's like 3 contestant per bachelor or bachelorette, and they choose based on that person's body parts. And sometimes, it's the penis.
for the American audience, you can ask to see private parts. You said it's everything except the face, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you ask to see the hair?
No, I don't think so.
Nothing on the head?
No.
Okay.
The neck down.
Yeah.
That must lead to a lot of butterface scenarios on that show.
I'm not going to use terms like that because I think that's offensive.
Really?
And people shouldn't be reduced to
There's nobody
outer physical appearance. No.
All right, fair enough. I think my standpoint is, if you go on a show to be judged naked by potential suitors, that you're making yourself fair game.
I'd love to know what the listeners think about that. Actually, no, I wouldn't. Please don't. The opinions of Jack do not in any way reflect the opinions of Mr. and Mrs. Snark Limited, and please don't come at me. Thank you. It didn't occur to me what a little girl Sam is until she said, "Love for me is having trust with someone, but they're also your best friend." Like, she had a pretty shitty edit. Like, the experience of her as a person was deeply unpleasant. Like, and there were flashes of empathy and compassion from her, but nothing anywhere near and good enough to kind of offset the ill will and the bad attitude and the shitty way of treating him. What did you all think about where we left Sam and Allie?
Yeah, she just kind of wants, I don't know exactly. I don't think she has realistic expectations necessarily. I don't know that she's been in a lot of other relationships, and that kind of shows, like you said, being young. I think she's going to expect him to kind of come over and start working as soon as he can right away, which he's not going to be able to. And I think she's going to just expect a lot of him. And he's got a vivacious, bubbly, outgoing personality, and she already has shown a lot of jealousy, and I don't see that going well.
I agree with all of that. The one quote unquote nice thing I can say about this, what we saw from them today, was her mother seems to like him a lot. That was a nice little, brief exchange between them. There's, I guess, coming off of, some of the other ones that we've seen this week, even, where mom is not a big fan of the significant other. I guess it just struck me like, okay, so, like Diana said, Allie's vivacious and he's got a, outgoing personality, and he comes off as likable, at least. So I think he's winning over mom so far, but I still am very curious to see what happens when he inevitably arrives in the UK.
And I am really hopeful to see them cut out another neck hole and create a triple slug.
Oh my God.
Really hopeful for that.
Oh, brilliant.
Tony, listener favorite, as I understand.
Boo.
So I realized I've corrected this, but I don't know if it'll show up on the shared note. But I originally typed he slimes that he's scared to give up London life instead of he claims he's scared to give up London life. I should have kept slime.
I was going to say, was that like that was like what do you call it? Yeah, Freudian slip.
Yeah. He's pretty fucking slimy. You guys, I don't have anything new to say about how gross he is. He doesn't represent London or London nightlife or London day life or anything like that at all. He's a total poser. He is, I'm sure, he's just an idiot, okay? And he's not representative of what a Londoner is like at all. He's small-minded. He's a lousy drunk. Okay, maybe that in some parts represents London. Just really fucking superficial and nasty and cheap, but spends money on what, in my opinion, are kind of venal things that don't improve. It's whatever. If this kind of guy is for you, then you're very welcome to him. He's very smug about his decision to move to Thailand. He says, I'll throw it to Jack.
I may struggle, but maybe for an hour. Really, man? Really? An hour?
I'd be interested to hear. I mean, my cousin taught English in Thailand for 2 years, so she lived in a few different places in Thailand for 2 years. I don't, beyond that, and her world was kind of insular because it was all kind of like related to the English school and things like that. I'd love to hear if anyone has expat experience in that part of the world, whether it makes a difference you being a tourist versus being like a full-time expat, and what the lifestyle is like there. Let us know. BloodyDayFiance@gmail.com, DM, Facebook, wherever you want to share.
Instagram, whatever you want to do. I had a question, and you're not going to be able to answer this one. This is for the listeners, anyone familiar with Thailand. I would like to know if people from a large, granted it is technically an island, but are people from Phuket, normally referred to as island people. It made me feel the way Tony said that it sounded overused word, but it felt reductive, and it felt like he didn't like really have any concept of Nui or where she's from.
I think he's somebody who comfortably uses racist terms all the time.
Yeah, I think he feels very small inside, and that's why he dresses himself up, fills his face up, wears those lovely 4-inch heels.
Y'all, I wore lower heels than that to my 8th grade formal. Though that was 4 inches. Those heels were a sight to behold.
Yeah, so I think he wears all of this. He does all of this because he feels really small inside, which makes him dangerous to me. It makes him feel like he can, clearly, when he gets drunk, he can go off into a direction that doesn't feel safe.
Well, and that was something that we didn't see all of, and we only get kind of pieces of that. He was like a monster and went after Nui, and didn't really feel like he was apologizing, but seemed more like, yeah, we were both drunk and everyone said some stuff. And that's not the impression I got from Nui.
just like, I don't even want to go there.
I
really.
just can't. I can't. I will tell you all. Look, if you're into, I talked a lot of shit about the London Eye, and I really shouldn't. As far as tourist attractions go,
That would be the giant Ferris wheel
yes,
on
that's
the
right.
Thames River.
Yes, it's a marvelous invention, and yes, it's a beautiful view, and the pods are air conditioned, and it's nice to have a glass of champagne in there, and it's fine. So I'm not going to complain about that. I will tell you, I would put money on this having been filmed at 5:30 in the morning, because if it's even, as long as it's dry and like above 20 degrees Fahrenheit, that thing is packed solid.
Is it open 24 hours?
No, it's not open 24 hours, but it's like from whenever it opens, like 9 a.m. to later in the evening.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
You were saying that they were filming before it opened.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They did do a decent job of cheating, like it might have been 5:30 p.m.
Yeah, they did. They did.
But you're right.
Caduce, he proposes, the family is there to greet them and embrace them for as long as that love lasts. I don't think it's going to be there when he announces that he's actually moving to Thailand.
But their love is like Thai food. It's like
Tom yum soup. Yep, sour, hot.
A little bit of so Tony on the sweet end is like rancid coconut milk. Is that fair? I love tom yum soup. That's not knocking the soup.
I do too.
That's if Tony was tom yum soup. That's what it would be.
Oh, we should get Thai tonight.
Ooh, I'm more of a tom kha ga. I like the sweet coconut milk part of the soup.
Too.
That's my jam. Well, and Tony will get to eat a lot of that as he has decided to move to Thailand. And please, he wants to be the big fish in that small pond.
Course
he
does.
is not sad to leave it all. He feels so less than when he's in London.
Yep.
This is his opportunity to feel like the big man.
100%. Also, Tony is like fish sauce from 1995 that's been left open in the sun.
Oh my goodness. And look, Nui seems happy. Good for her. She seems like a lovely woman. But I hope she has some sort of strategy that we are not privy to that might be playing a hand in what she's doing with her life right now.
At least her mother's going to be around. I feel better that her actual family is going to be around, because I don't think he is going to be outwardly abusive in front of the mother. But you better believe that not wanting a baby stance is going to shift pretty quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else on all these people, or are we going to see them next week?
I think we can close there. My name is Michelle, and love for me is having trust with someone, but they're also my best friend.
My name's Jack, and sometimes the silence is deafening.
And I'm Diana, just a island girl in love with her island guy.
We love you.
That's it.